Welcome back to the show Disruptors. I'm your host, Aaron Hale, and this is Point of Impact. I first spoke to today's guest 4 years ago when I was a guest on his show. Alec Lace is a Northern New Jersey father of 4 kids, and he noticed a very disconcerting decline in his community's value placed on the role of the father in raising children. And he also believes that all of society's problems, all of his community's problems could be solved inside the household. His problems could be solved with a strong mother and father role in raising their children, praying together, teaching them moral and ethical values, and being a greater value asset to a community, but adding more value to a community than they take. So, in an attempt to add more value to his community, he launched Class Fatherhood, a podcast in which he's been interviewing for 5 years service members, CEOs, athletes, coaches, thought leaders, government officials, and everywhere along the spectrum. Every discussion being one on how to become a first-class father. And while he's got his own political views and he's interviewed government officials from both sides of the aisle, he tries to keep first-class fatherhood on an even keel as far as politics go. But he recognizes that culture drives politics. Essentially that the people with a set of values, tell our government, based on those set values, how to write the laws that govern our country or our community. But what's been happening is, what he believes he's seeing is, but what he's noticed is that there's been a reversal of the roles, where special interest groups, lobbies, labor unions, corporations, even our own government are telling their constituents that what they value is wrong. And they're trying to dictate to the people how to believe, what to think, and how to act. So instead of changing the format of First-Class Fatherhood, he launched another podcast, the Alec Lace Show. This is all the culture and the politics. On top of that, he's also gathered all the best lessons from First-Class Fatherhood into a book, First-Class Fatherhood, which has become a bestseller. On top of all of his success with his podcast and his book, he's also been training for a pretty incredible event coming up soon in the Hudson River with a bunch of Navy SEALs. Listen to the end so you can find out how you can support Alec as he supports our nation's warriors. My last thought on this is that while I try to keep this podcast on an even keel politically as well, I don't apologize for my guests' thoughts or comments, nor do I apologize for mine. I believe that we all, Alec, myself, you as well, the audience, all want what's best for our families, for our community, and our country in general. We definitely won't always agree on how to get there, but that's part of being a member of a community. We have to collaborate. We don't always have to accept others' beliefs as our own. We just have to tolerate that others have different beliefs. That's all right. That's the mission of this podcast. It's my aim to bring on all sorts of guests that will help you think, live, act, and unlock the best you have so that you can be a greater asset to your community, leave a lasting legacy, and be that point of impact you really want to be in the world. Politics aside, I want you to become the best you can. You can make a large impact with a small act right now. All you got to do is give the show 5 stars. If you're on YouTube, hit like, give it a comment, leave a review. All these acts, subscribing, following, hitting the notification bell, all of that stuff drives the algorithm. Lets it know that this is a show worth pushing out to more and more people. And if you know of anyone you think is a first-class father who might be interested in finding out about Alec, send them a link to the show. That's the best way to get the word out. Tell somebody. And without further ado, my conversation with first-class father, Alec Lace. Alec, my friend, I'm so glad I finally got you on the show. This is really exciting for me because, of course, we spoke years ago on your show, and I've been listening to you ever since, but I really wanted to introduce you to my audience. So thank you, my friend. Glad you're here.
Well, Aaron, it's an honor to be here with you. It's an honor to speak with you once again. Yeah, it was quite a few years ago now that I had you on First Class Fatherhood, so glad we could reconnect here. And congrats on the podcast.
Well, I got to tell you, you've had an extraordinary success with your First Class Fatherhood show, which I do want to get into, and another one, the Alec Lace Show. Not to mention that, your book and TV, the Super Bowl interviews. I mean, it's incredible. So if I want to get into all of it, including the Navy SEAL swim, but before we get into that, I really want to, where did you come from? What events formed Alec Lace? Was the origins?
Well, I'm born in the Bronx, New York, raised in mostly North Jersey. And, I'm married for almost 19 years, a father of 4 kids. I'm a recovering alcoholic, recovering addict, and I work for the railroad, which I still do. I've been doing that for 24 years. This is my 24th year working for the railroad as a diesel engine mechanic. So that's been my bread and butter job. And 5 years ago, I launched First Class Fatherhood, the podcast, which has been a blessing to me in my life. I drive part-time. I not right now currently, but I used to drive a lot of Uber and Lyft and regular metered taxi cabs before that as a part-time job to help support the family. And one of the recurring themes that kept coming up when I was talking to young men, Friday, Saturday night, was when I would tell them I had 4 kids, they always kind of looked at me like I had 4 heads. And they always were like, man, 4 kids. They had this negative, which I think so many young men do in this country, have this negative idea of what it means to start a family, to get married, to have kids. They look at it like it's a bad thing. It's going to ruin their life. And they have such a negative outlook on it. And I was constantly trying to change that mindset with them, on the short time that I had with them. And I felt like, man, I should put some of this stuff on tape because I feel like I keep repeating myself. And that's why it just all kind of lined up at the time. Podcasting became really, really big. It was in 2018. And there was access for guys like me to start a podcast. So that's what I did. And I chose the topic of fatherhood because I was so sick of hearing so many young men just talking negatively about becoming a father. So I wanted to encourage the young men that, this is going to be the greatest thing that happens in your life. And so I've been blessed to have so many great high-profile people come on the show that are known for so many other things, whether that be playing in the NFL, whether that be winning Academy Awards, whatever it may be. But really what they need to be known for is their fatherhood journeys. It's far more important who they are as fathers than who they are in the public eye. So that's why, it's connected really well with new dads, veteran dads, dads of all ages and stages. So it's really the reason why I launched the show.
Well, you're certainly a man of principle. Where do these principles come from? I mean, is this from your dad? Is just to experience yourself being a father?
I think it comes from a lot of failure, Aaron, to be honest with you. For instance, at one point in my life, I got a lifetime ban from Giant Stadium. And when you fast forward that, I've been invited by the NFL to attend the Super Bowl to interview guys like, Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. So that's the kind of turnaround this has really been. So the first part of my life, I was headed in a very wrong direction. And it was a mindset shift that had happened to me through becoming a father, through becoming sober. Also played a big part. My faith got renewed. And so a lot of changes happened in my own life. My best friend growing up committed suicide right around this same time. So there was a big shift that happened to me spiritually, mentally. And I think that's really, there's two different sides to my life. The first half of it, or the majority of it, leading up to 2018. And that's when I think a lot of the shift had happened with me.
And you feel that you found these principles, so you became a dedicated father and started sharing it. Your principles, the standards, your beliefs in a strong, father component to the family. And do you feel nowadays like you're swimming upstream? Yeah, I mean, society, culture, it really, a strong father figure, a dedicated father, really is important to the family unit. But it seems like advertising, media, culture. You were talking about how you were talking to these other young men, and they were repulsed by the idea. What do you think about that? And is it are we slipping in society?
We've slipped, Aaron. We're not slipping. We've slipped, and it's been coming for a long time. And it is one of my biggest focuses on the show is the fatherless crisis, because so many of our young men, especially, who grow up without a father or a father figure, are finding themselves in the penal system. We're filling up our prisons with fatherless young men because there's, even I had Steve Harvey on the podcast, and he does like such great work with young boys and young girls that come from these broken homes. And they don't have, like, a young man without a father, he put it, is like an explorer without a map. And there's so many people that are suffering in this country because they don't have that positive father figure. Now, a lot of guys can find that, whether it be in the military, they could find that father figure, they could find it through a coach, they could find it through a teacher, and that helps set them on the right path. But it's when they find that father figure in the street that's leading to so much of our problems. And I talk about with a lot of the politicians that I interview, we try to focus on so many other issues in this country, but unless we secure our nuclear family units and get dads back in the home, none of this stuff is going to change. It's going to be a revolving door. We keep trying to, there's a house with a rotten foundation, and we keep trying to paint the house. We keep putting more money into the house, but we don't secure the foundation, and it's just a lost cause. And that's why I think it's so important that these guys speak out, the ones that are known and have these high platforms. They're followed by millions of people, and they're known for these things that really, in the end, it don't matter. What really matters is who they are as fathers, and their impact on the society is going to be far greater if they share those stories. And that's what I try to drag out of them when I bring them on the show.
Right. I mean, it's what we're taught. It was what we see every single day. It's what we hear. It's what we experience. It goes far beyond just the family unit. It's our entire culture. And that's what led you to start the second podcast. Well, tell me about that.
I tried to do my best to keep politics off of First Class Fatherhood. Now, I've had dads from every faith, every political side of the aisle, and I've always kind of just tried to focus it on their fatherhood journeys, because and especially whenever I had a political person on from the right, whether that be Senator Ted Cruz or whoever it may be that I had on the show, I keep getting bombarded with, hate mail and, people very vicious about it, even though we don't really even talk about political issues at all. And so I kind of got sick and tired of that. And I was like, you know what, let me throw myself, I can't keep my mouth shut anymore about what's going on in this country. And me, like so many other Americans, are just sick and tired of the direction that the country is headed in. And we can't just be silent about it. What's coming for our country is very bad, and unless more people stand up to speak out about it, nothing is going to change. And that's why I launched the Alec Lace Show to focus on these things, these issues that are affecting parents all over the country. And I've been blessed to have so many great guests come on already. I mean, I'm almost 2 months into the show. I've had Carrie Lake come on, Senator Josh Hawley, Larry Elder, Judge Jeanine Pirro, and really the response has been incredible. And I'm going to try to keep pushing it because these issues need to be discussed.
Well, you're absolutely right about one thing. I could try to keep politics out of the podcast, try to keep it out of my business because, well, people on both sides want to buy fudge but I want them to buy food. But you can't call it. But politics and culture are inextricably linked. They're not. They're inseparable. You can't just avoid politics because culture drives politics. And I think, and you tell me if you agree or disagree. Back in the day, in the past, it was that the left or the right, Democrats, Republicans, the one unifying thing was that we all wanted what was best for our families, for our community, for the country. We just had different ideas of how to go about it. But now it seems that somewhere along the way, we've actually become enemies, the left and the right. And that it's like one side believes that the other side is trying to ruin the country for some reason or other. Is that sound right? Or are we actually seeing that there are people out there that are really actually trying to break it down?
I mean, I think it's very, very obvious. The political tension in this country is just so toxic right now. We've seen it. Obviously, when Donald Trump ran for president is really where it started to, you saw the fire that started to happen there. And then especially through COVID, as that happened, people are, it's politics has broken apart families. It's broken apart people from their jobs just because of their political stances. And people are being persecuted for voicing their opinion. And it's because one side of this whole issue controls the media, and it controls what we see. It controls the education system, what the kids are learning. And if you have a differing opinion, instead of debating it in the public square, they want to shut you up and not allow you to speak about it. Now, even on First Class Fatherhood, I had a number of my episodes pulled down on YouTube, even despite the fact that we didn't even get into the political issues. I'm right now one strike away from losing my channel on YouTube because of it. And and a lot of it stems from during the pandemic. You weren't allowed to speak anything other than what you were being told. And people were like, wait a second, why am I not even allowed to have an opinion about this? And so, especially when you see, like on YouTube, you're allowed to have conspiracy theory videos about, hey, the U.S. never landed on the moon. Or John F. Kennedy assassination conspiracy theories, flat Earth conspiracy theories. None of those videos ever get pulled down. They're still on there. There's many of them getting uploaded daily. But if you start talking about COVID-19, you're in danger of losing your channel. If you start talking about the election in 2020, you're in danger of losing your channel. And that, to me, is very eye-opening. And so I just think, and especially, too, I found Rumble, which is a platform where they allow you to speak freely, and that's where I launched the new show that I have, because I knew that if I was going to be getting into these issues, YouTube, I wouldn't stand a chance over there. So that's why I chose over there. But there's a political divide in this country, Aaron, and it's very toxic, and it's destroying the families that are intact. And it ain't, we're already in a decline with families, and now even the ones that are intact are going at it with one another over these political issues.
Just hit on so many different points that are absolutely correct. I mean, we have a constitution, right? We've got these basics, set of rules and rights, and we have a First Amendment that says we have the freedom of speech, except when it's hate speech, or misinformation or disinformation. But that's exactly the reason we have that First Amendment, is for the speech that other people might not like. Also, you're right, like the government and the special interest parties that want to take other rights, like your right to decide as a parent what's best for your child, or what's best for you, or what's best for your society. And I mean, it's what does the average Joe do about all that? If it seems like it's too much, it seems like it's overwhelming, it's just too many powerful forces playing against us, and all we want to do is survive, thrive, take care of our kids the best we can, and raise them with the same values that we're raised with. You just want to have a happy family and a prosperous life. What does the average Joe do?
You couldn't be more right, Aaron, because the average American wants to go to work, raise their kids, coach them in sports or take their daughters to the dance recitals, whatever it may be, enjoy their family on their weekends, go on a nice, a camping trip or a fishing trip, spend time with the family. They want to just go to work and raise their family and be left alone with all of this stuff. But unfortunately, it's involved in all of our lives now. But the good thing is that we do have tools to fight back and at least voice our opinion. We know Twitter, which is now X, you have the right to get on there and express your opinion freely without the fear of being, attacked. Well, you'll get attacked. There's no doubt about that. But you have the fear of getting banned like you do on Instagram, Facebook, which will just pull you down and suspend you, put you in a timeout, whatever it may be. But the thing we have to get to, the point we need to get to is to have a civil discourse because, if somebody is, pro-life and somebody is pro-choice, you have to be able to have a conversation with the person without hating the person. Like, it seems like if you talk about, being pro-life and you say, well, that's your stance, people violently come at you. And it's like, I've had many people on my show that have opposing opinions on all these issues on First Class Fatherhood. And I don't care. I don't hate the person, or I don't have some kind of vile in me that's like, oh, I can't, but like when you have the conversation with pro-life and pro-choice, it's one thing to have the conversation, but when you're talking about some of these, the pro-choice, they're holding up, bloody stuffed animal dolls that look like babies, and they're spiking them like a football, and they're celebrating abortions and stuff. That's getting way out of control. Like, and it's like, tone it down a bit with some of the rhetoric, and let's have a conversation about this. But with some of these issues, they just start flying right off the handle. And I find it to be people on the left that just, go from 0 to 100 in a split second on these issues, and you can't even talk to them anymore. So we have to get to a point where we can discuss these issues, and they just want to shut you down, where they don't even want to listen to you. They just want to take away your right to speak. And I think that's a dangerous moment that we're having right now in the country.
It's not even that they don't want to listen to it, is they want to take your ability to speak away. It's not Twitter anymore. It's X. He does like those X's. But yeah. What do you call it now? It's not a tweet, I guess. Is it still a tweet?
I don't know. Yeah.
But at least Musk freed up one of the platforms. But you're right. It's not just that they don't want to listen to opposing voices. In fact, words are violence now. So you can be charged for hate speech and doing violence. You can be arrested. You get not just deplatformed or silenced, but you can get. There are people getting. People in England are getting arrested for praying for outside abortion clinics. Now, it definitely seems very overwhelming. And then, of course, it goes even before the family, because we're now being, society is being incentivized. People are actually getting paid to have, single parent families. How do these kids, have a chance? How do we help these kids have a chance of growing up in a stable culture, a stable environment, a strong moral code, whatever your moral code is? But how do we encourage these the American family values?
The only way we can do it is by influencing them and by getting involved in your local community, the dads who are involved in their kids' lives, and take on those roles as coaches, as teachers. I mean, you can get involved on a person-to-person basis, but I think it's especially important for the people that have the big platforms to lead by example. When I had Larry Elder on the show, he talked about, we were talking about LeBron James and his son, who recently had a heart attack at the age of 18. But LeBron James is somebody, who had his first child out of wedlock with a woman who he later married, and then went on to have more kids with. They have a fantastic relationship, a good marriage. They have a bunch of kids together, and there's never been a hint of any kind of scandal whatsoever with LeBron James. Yet, he doesn't talk about that. That's not the LeBron James that we see in the public square. And that's the kind of guy that has that kind of impact and has that kind of platform that could do so much good, particularly for the African-American community, which is suffering more from the fatherless crisis than any other community in our country. And that needs to be addressed before you can solve any other issue. That has to be addressed. Now, the fatherless problem is affecting every single culture in this country. But even Barack Obama back in 2008 gave a phenomenal Father's Day speech. This was before he became president. He already won the nomination, but it was on Father's Day 2008. He gave a very passionate speech about the fatherless problem in the African-American community and talked about it. It resonated with a lot of people. The issue was people like Reverend Jesse Jackson came at him hard. Other people on the left came at him hard, and you very rarely ever heard him speak about it again. And it seems like whenever you try to bring up this issue, they look at it as if it's a racist issue. They look at it as if it's, so they try to prevent you from talking about it, when meanwhile, it is the number one social issue in our country, but in particular in the African-American community. It is destroying that community. And you have 70% of kids in the African-American community being born out of wedlock, and 50% of them living with no father in the house. And when you have that type of statistic, it's almost impossible to get out from underneath it. And that's why you see, wherever you see high percentages of fatherless homes, you're going to see the high percentages of violent crime, teenage drug use, teenage pregnancy, teenage suicide. All of these things correlate with not having a father in the home. And so if we don't address that first, you could throw as much money as you want. We've done that. We've thrown more money at communities, and it hasn't changed a thing. It's time to start focusing on that foundation and trying to restore the nuclear family unit. We need guys that have these high platforms to start speaking out about it.
You know what? This is also a thing is that, again, I think it's this sentimentality that the other side's the enemy. And, you mentioned LeBron James. He and I come from the same hometown, Akron. I was really proud to be able to say, that this superstar, this role model, this example came from my hometown. That I lived right down the road from him, and he's trying. He's got his set of values. He started that school, the I Promise school, but then he's, like you said, he's not talking about, having children, being married, being, the father. It's not, he says things, in public, the public eye, tweeting about, anti-police, and of course, his methods, that he instilled in the school aren't really working out very well, if you've heard.
They haven't had one kid pass a math test in the last 3 years. It's terrible. And of course, that's the issue with just throwing money at something and not being passionately involved in it and being connected to it. So there's an issue with that as well.
So what I think is that it's going far too far to one side or the other, far too left, far too right, extreme. The extremities are they're outrageous. They don't work, and they just lead to collapse. That's why we need the balance. It's why we need partnership. We need that the collaboration with our parties, with our people. It's progressive. It is always changing, always improving, so to speak, but getting rid of the old. Whereas conservative is holding on to those standards, the values, the things that have worked for us in the past that we need to hold on to. And there's actually a balance, because some of the stuff we did in the past, it was really terrible. It was really bad. It doesn't work. It was what might have worked in the past, but we have grown up. We've evolved. But then again, if we throw the baby out with the bathwater, if we burn all of our systems down and everything that we've worked for to get to where we are, and are far too leftist, we're going to destroy what made this country so great. And I think that's what's happening here.
You're right, Aaron. And an unfortunate stat, too, is that only 16% of Gen Zers in this country are proud to be American, that are proud of their country. And that shows that we are failing these kids, particularly in the school system, which is constantly teaching them that America is inherently a very bad place, a very bad country. And they think of America has never corrected any of the wrongs that have happened in this country. They are just taught to hate it. And that's another thing, too, is like, especially on the Democrat side, this is why I think Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is gaining so much traction in the Democratic Party, is because that type of philosophy from the Democrats of don't ask what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country, used to be the standard type of slogan in the Democrat Party. Now that has gone out the window. Everything is about what the government can do for you. And that's all that seems to matter. But now you have a voice like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is in that moderate field. He's not far, far left. And I think that's where some of the Democrats are wondering, what happened to my party? Even though they'll never want to vote ever a Republican. But they're when you talk to a like I work on the railroad, as I said, we got a very big melting pot there, a lot of different ideas on everything. And even when you talk to the Democrats, I've never talked to one yet, personally, in person, that agrees that children should be castrated or that children should be allowed to cut their breasts off. Nobody agrees with this, no matter what side of the aisle they're on. But when you talk about it, you say that you become a transphobe, and that's not a transphobe. That's just realistic. That is crazy what has happened. And the other part of this too, Aaron, is we talk about how bad America is, and the Gen Z people, the Gen Zers in this country, hate America because they think it's inherently racist. Now, the two greatest atrocities in the last century or so have been the slavery and have been the Holocaust. And one thing that's important to remember is that America ended both of those. And we need to focus on the fact that, yes, America has made some mistakes in their history, but they've also corrected them. Americans stood up in this country and said, you know what, this is wrong when it came to slavery. They fought and died by the hundreds of thousands to end it. The Holocaust, which was killing millions of Jews, Americans got involved. We lost hundreds of thousands of them, and they ended it. So we need to also discuss that while we're discussing part of American history.
Absolutely right. I mean, we've got to instill pride in our nation. We definitely have to accept our mistakes, learn from them, move forward. But it doesn't mean to hate who we are and where we came from. You're absolutely right. Who was it? When it goes to it's just like we've turned all the rules upside down. Was it the actor that played Superman on TV? Said
Dean Cain.
That's right. Yeah, he said that his 3-year-old doesn't know anything about sexuality. He just got slammed on social media and the press for saying that his 3-year-old had the brain of a 3-year-old. It seems like we've just lost our minds when it comes to certain things. That having no standards is the new standard, and having no values, being as outrageous as you possibly can is the new in thing to do. Satan worship and overt sexuality and changing genders and it's and of course the whole debate over the discussion over sexual material in kindergarten and in elementary schools, and it seems this is just, it's outrageous. But the other side likes to turn it into something as though we're being puritanical or book burning, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. This is just normal family values that we need to maintain just to have a society at all.
And while the left is having a lot of success, Aaron, with what they're doing, is because people are so afraid to say anything because of their public image will be destroyed and ruined, and they will come for you. We just saw that with Neo, who is the rapper R&B artist, who said that he doesn't think children should ever be able to make a life-altering decision that will live with them forever, and he got completely destroyed for it. Then the publicist put out the statement saying he apologized for it. Then he put out a video saying, no, I didn't apologize. I'm not apologizing for having an opinion on this. And so it's worked what they have done, because they've made so many people, especially the Hollywood people, athletes, they are so afraid to say, you know what, I don't think kids should be castrated. They won't say that. Even though they feel it, they won't say it because they're going to get attacked. But I don't think it's the majority of people, because if it was, Bud Light would be the most popular beer in the country right now. The fact that it has tanked and has crushed Anheuser-Busch shows you that so many people don't agree with sexualizing everything in our culture, and especially when it comes to trying to have men compete in women's sports. I think the idea of that is ludicrous, but even athletes are afraid to say that because they're afraid of the backlash, and that's the whole idea of making you afraid to voice your opinion. So on one hand, they'll pull your platform down. On the other one, they'll make you so afraid to have that opinion out in the public square, you won't even do it, so they don't have to worry about you no more. And that's the issue that we're having in the country.
Well, I never thought it was a very good beer to start with, but that's just my opinion. I can't boycott Bud Light. I never bought it in the first place. However, you're right. I think it's time that we found our voices again. That whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, you're single, married, you have kids, you don't, you have a set of values, and we can change those values over time, but it's our right to live and believe how we wish, so long as we're not infringing on others' rights. And I think that's something that we've forgotten. It's kind of a live and let live thing, but it's also we have the right to try to be prosperous. We don't have the right to be, we're not, prosperity isn't guaranteed. We have, and that's another thing we haven't talked about yet, is this equality versus equity. The equal opportunity to try versus equal outcome. I think it's, again, just turning everything on its end. We all have the equal opportunity to try right now. No matter where we start off in life, where we're born, what color, race, creed, ethnicity, religion, political background, sexuality, all that kind of thing. We have the opportunity here in America, the best opportunity in the world or in history, to go out and make the best of our lives. And it doesn't matter if we start on equal footing. We're free to work as hard as we can.
No doubt about it, Aaron. And everybody, when you're born in America, you already have the greatest opportunity in the world, all right? America is easy. If you were born in Cambodia, it's a problem. It's hard. If you're born in some of these other countries, you have a big problem. You're born in America, you already have the opportunity that everybody else does. And that's the thing is, this country, you have got to bring value to the marketplace. And that's the whole name of this game. Now, everybody is valuable, equally valuable in the sense of the community, equally valuable in the eyes of God. We're all equally valuable in all these different ways. But when it comes to the marketplace, if you don't bring any value, you don't get much money. And people think they have this idea that they can get rich by demand. But you can't get rich by demand. You have got to improve your skill sets. You have got to bring something to the table to become more valuable. And that's the idea. People just think because they're here, they should be given what the other guy has, who's worked harder than you, who's developed a skill set, who has climbed the ladder, the guy who has built a business, employed people. People think they have the right, they're entitled to the same benefits that guy has. And that is not the way it works. If you don't bring any value to the marketplace, you don't get much money. So what can you do? You have millions of opportunities in this country to develop skill sets, and they're available to everybody equally. So take advantage of them, work on yourself, become a better, whatever craft it is you're working on, whatever skill sets you need to acquire, you can acquire them in this country, and then start going to work. Put those skill sets to work. And that's how you can achieve the American dream, which is still possible. Stop crying and complaining about it and demanding that people give you money. That's not the way this system is built.
That's you just hit the nail on the head. It's that victimhood thing. It's having an excuse. And I'm sure I could have had, just like many others, a very good excuse for quitting, to stop trying. And I could have put my hand out and waited for something to land in it. And I think that's what a lot of people do today. They use any and every excuse they possibly can to not, go out there and try. And unfortunately, I think the government supports that. our government and our society is telling everybody that you have a great excuse to take from somebody else or to take from the government because you have you're born with a certain color, or you're born at a certain time or place in our country or outside the country, or you're disabled, or whatever it is, you're a student with debt. And here, have some of the taxpayers' money, or be absolved from your responsibility to be a working citizen, be a member of this community. You have a great excuse. And I think that victim mentality is another one of those social contagions that we really need to fix.
It's a poison. It's definitely a poison. And you know what? You can look to success, because success always seems to leave clues behind. If you look at the Asian community in America, they're flourishing. They are the highest earners. The Asian culture, the Indian culture, they're flourishing. They are the top earners in this country. They are not filling up the prisons. They are not homeless and on the street. And by far, they are exceeding other cultures. So if you look to say, hey, well, what's going on with that culture? Well, let's take a look. Their single-parent households are in the single digits percentile-wise. They have the strongest nuclear family units in the country. And wow, what a coincidence that they're making more money, they're staying out of prison, and they're staying off the street, and they're staying off drugs. This works. So let's see if you had in the African-American community, in the Hispanic community, the same percentage of fathers in the home as the Asian and the Indian community, there is no doubt that the outcome would be very similar to, if not exactly the same. That's what matters. It matters. You're highly influenced by your surroundings, right? I think you become the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. And if your community around you is similar, not growing up with fathers in the home, your father now becomes the other kid that's in the street going through the same thing, and you both go down the same path. So many people can attest to this, and it cannot be ignored. The fact that the importance of, and the other part of this issue, Aaron, is that the Heavenly Father has been removed from our society. God's been taken out of our world. And so when you have no father in the home, no Heavenly Father in the community, it leads to the disastrous results we are seeing played out all over this country.
And when you throw out all structure and direction, then you're just lost at sea. And I think that's what a lot of people feel like. And that's why we're seeing so much depression, anxiety, suicide, poverty, and of course, attendance to church. I think actually is now back on the uprise. There's an uptick to, people attending church, claiming they're people of faith, because I think they're feeling it. And I think we're starting to see a turnaround. You, of course, have become, a very vocal advocate, a warrior for the father, for the family, the nuclear family, marriage, faith, and of course, politics and community that support that. You're also supporting other warriors. And tell me about what you're training for right now.
Well, I've been training since January for the New York City Navy SEAL swim across the Hudson River. This is their 5th annual. The last 2 years, I had the honor of being with these guys as they made the swim across the Hudson River. I was covering it for the podcast, interviewing them because they swim to a barge by the Statue of Liberty. They get up on the barge. They do push-ups. They do pull-ups. Then they jump back in, swim to the next barge by Ellis Island, do the push-ups and pull-ups, and then swim over to New York. And so in between, I was doing on-the-spot interviews, getting video, audio. And listen, I just like yourself, those who have served, I'm always just so honored to be around you guys, because it really means a lot to me. And I love the fact, and I think we wouldn't stand a chance in this world without you guys. And so that's why I always bring so many military veterans on the show. And the Navy SEAL community, I made so many friends in that community that I was out there to support them. I covered last year for Newsmax. I was doing some reporting for them on the swim. And this year, of course, they egg you on a little bit. Hey, when are you going to do the swim? So, but I felt like hey, you know what? I've covered this the last 2 years. Let me get involved and get in there and get in the water and make the swim with these guys. And it's no easy task for me. I've been training for it since January. It's coming up on August 19th. They do it in honor and in memory of the loss of life on Extortion 17, which was the largest single incident loss for the Navy Special Warfare community. And they also do it in honor of all those that lost their lives on 9/11. They do it to raise money for the Navy SEAL Foundation. I'm doing my part as well, and it's a great. You can't. I think it's the greatest New York City event all year long. It's so patriotic. You'll have about maybe 50 or 60 Navy SEALs that do the swim, but also you have so many other combat veterans. You have police and fire department, and you have patriots like myself, civilians that are supporters of our military. That are making the swim. And it's such a patriotic day. They have the leapfrogs who parachute in with Gold Star parents and Gold Star family members. They parachute in before the swim. They have a barge that's out there for the Gold Star parents. It really is such a patriotic event. And we need patriotic events in this country right now. We need Americans to fall in love with America again. And this event does that.
I tell you what, that's not an easy thing either. I mean, I think I was talking to Liz Clayman from Fox Business about when she was doing the New York City Triathlon, and she said that current in the Hudson River, I think a bag of Cheetos had a qualifying time, just floating down that river. So I got to hand it to you. The training's got to be going. I hope it's going well. And you're right. Yeah, of course, I'm a veteran, and I started in the Navy. It wasn't a SEAL. I was a cook. When Army EOD. And served alongside Navy EOD techs. But we also have an annual challenge right here, the EOD Memorial Challenge. It's a ruck swim run. And it's pretty funny because I'll ask the schoolhouse to, offer some students to, help guide me along the way. And I do need the Navy diver swimmers, the EOD students, practically drag me that swimming portion. I'm okay with the ruck and the run, but I gotta hand it to you that swim is good, definitely a challenge. So wish you all the best, and I really do. I really appreciate your time here. Is there anything else before we start to wrap up that you want to share, you want to promote, and definitely where people can find it?
Yeah, just I'd love for you to come check me out. Excuse me, First Class Fatherhood or the Alec Lace Show on Rumble. I got the book, First Class Fatherhood, Advice and Wisdom from High-Profile Dads. It's available on Amazon. And so that's all. I just encourage people to do their part too. Like if you're a father out there raising your kids, don't be afraid to share that. Don't be afraid to show that, and don't be afraid to get involved in your community and reach back down and help out those kids who don't have that father figure, be that through the coaching system or through volunteering, whatever it may be. Let's just try to focus on making this country a family-oriented country again, where we can start to really embrace the values that make this country so great, and just enjoy being a father, enjoy being a parent, and just let's try to make each other better.
Alec, thank you so much. We'll get those links in the show notes. And I really appreciate all you're doing for the father, for our children, for the nuclear family, and our culture in general. You have been a very outspoken advocate, and I really do appreciate it. And thank you for being on the show.
It means a lot to me coming from you, Aaron, and it's always a blessing and an honor to talk to you. Thank you for having me on the show today.
All right. Have a good one.